Asia's Four Little Tigers, a comparison of the role of education. From 1965 to 1990, there were 23 economies of East Asia that grew. Of these economies, there was Hong Kong, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, and they made the biggest impact on the entire world. The second group of rapidly growing economies were named the Asian Tigers, and the 9 countries of Hong Kong, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. Why does it say Hong Kong and China twice? I didn't catch that before. Of these 9 countries, they had been described by the World Bank as the high-performing Asian economies. The 4 societies had the most notable feature of development by influence of the strained relationship of the neighboring power. And since Taiwan and South Korea were products of civil wars, both societies had been Japanese colonies until 1945, so they had that several critical differences between the world. The education and development first focused on structural and institutional factors. Their main goal was, or main policy was, to emerge from the perspective focus of the benefits for the need for investment in human capital. The government intervention across the Asian Tigers was varied, but mostly the government was really only involved in Hong Kong. In the development focuses more on the values and attitudes which were perceived by the prerequisites for the development. 2 of the attitudes that they found most common was punctuality and competitiveness. They were identified as consistent and supportive of the development. Primary schooling, that's little kids, had a common feature throughout all the societies, with the level of access to elementary or primary schooling prior to industrial takeoff. The high levels of access to basic education were also reflected in the relatively high levels of literacy which were achieved. The second common feature was a word I cannot say. It was essential to the nature of educational expansion. The growth in industrialization and the expansion of primary education took priority in most of the schools. The funding that was provided most of the time was provided by the state, but in Hong Kong, since they were using private schools, the schools there were funded by the parents and schoolies, I guess. Secondary education, the general academic and technical education was a big part of the secondary education, where they were learning more than just math and literacy and other things. They were learning how to work in the business world and how to do other things such as sewing and more fun stuff. Their key goal was to prepare a minority of pupils for entry to the final stage of formal education. It was to prepare them to get ready for graduate school and such. The curriculum played a big part in the primary and secondary education, obviously. Most of the time, the curriculum was state ruled, and so throughout that entire state, they had the same curriculum. It was very uniform. The teaching and learning were viewed instrumentally with regard to the goal of maximizing success in highly competitive selection examinations. In South Korea, one of the ways they based their curriculum off of the learning was the college entrance examination. So while they're testing for how well you did in school, they're also comparing what they need to change throughout their curriculum. Vocational and technical schooling, it was found mostly in Hong Kong and Singapore. It became for low-income schoolings, and it was for kids who weren't as applied into their schoolwork. They needed more attention throughout their schoolwork. and it was provided for smaller groups of people, so you had more individualized people or attention. Yeah, and that's it.